With us finding a solution to our water problem, transporting 12,500 water per minute to the top of our soon-to-be concrete facility, we're now ready to work on the production lines, requiring us to transport 15,000 limestone per minute, which will be combined with water to produce 10,000 wet concrete for our steel facility, bringing us one step closer to finishing phase 2 of our Giga-Smeltery project, where we'll be processing over 100,000 resources per minute before we get started on our mega factory. But with such a vast selection of resources being transported, we already have our first problem: logistics. But don't worry, I have a plan. Now, the big issue here is that we have all of these 6 stations occupied pretty much all the time. There's always multiple trains coming in and out. So there's no way we can take the limestone out from here, and we do need to get the limestone to the other side of the factory, as the plan is to build the facility underneath the water facility here, or the water and packages. And that's going to give us 2 options. We can either bring the train along this section, dropping off the resources and then busing them all the way across to here. The problem is that we're planning on adding a copper smeltery on top of all this. Or the other option would be to make use of the line underneath here, which we never placed, and we could bring the train line along here and possibly run it, well, maybe here. Although it would be so much cooler actually if we had one massive train that we ran all the way underneath this section where our coal sinks are. Yeah, that would actually be awesome. So I think what we should start off with today is, if we remove all of these coal sinks, we're actually going to place these over here in this section, because probably this is where the diamond particle accelerators will be. Wonderful. So that leaves us with all of this space to place our train station, and we're going to need a total of 13 freight stations. So if we add this one at the forefront, we're gonna have to maybe move these as well. We could maybe place this slightly within the wall. I think we'll be all right. Have a little walkway across the edge. And then from here, we're going to need 13. So that's 1, 2, 9, 10, 11. No! Oh, darn it. We don't have enough room. 12. That it would be up to here. And the reason that we want 13 is we need about 15,000 resources per minute. So that is a total of 26 outputs, and we times that by 780. That gives us a total output of 20,280 per minute, which is 5,000 more than we need. So in theory, we could do it with less. However, what we're going to do is 13 times 1.5, then by 780, which will leave us with 15,000 per minute, which means each one of these will go to 3 lines, and that should mean that we've got enough coming through, but only just. So we're going to have to make sure that we're spot on, otherwise we're going to have issues. However, that is obviously not going to work, so I think the solution for now would actually be if we lift this up. 10, come on, 11, 12. That would bring us to here. And that would actually give us enough headroom as well. So if we remove all of this, we could actually run a train line. Ooh, but where would it go? If this is the height, there is room. We don't want it to run through the facility because this is where the concrete's going to be produced. Could run it above, but then we've got this massive line here. And really we want it to connect with the lower section. So it would be better if we could go along the bottom and then curve around to here. I think we'd have to go this way. We had the track run along here, and then it's going to be a bit steep. We might be able to bring it up here. Oh, that is going to be really tight. Okay, yeah, let's give that a go. We'll try and bring it all the way around, which means we probably are going to have to start it over here and go with a 2-meter ramp. I'll change all of this to concrete in a little bit. That works out. Just. Now we could go into a turn. Okay, yeah, let's do that. Let's give it a go. The good news is we have managed to connect it up. We've made it work, and that is ready to somehow cross the actual facility. But it looks a little bit plain. I've added the foundations underneath, but I think we need to find a way to somehow make this pop a little bit more so that you can see this as clearly a station. For the front here, I think we should have steel beams just to make it stand out more. And then I was also exploring, surprise, surprise, with some signs. I was thinking maybe in between each section we could add something like that, except the other way around, and then we'd flip it around for the other piece on that side. I think it could work, we just need to do the whole thing. Let's give it a try. Well, look at that. I am pretty happy with that. So the next thing that we need to do is to work out how to span the gap here. And I think that's all going to start off with us replacing these, because we have a blueprint, if I can find it. Goodness me, I need to categorize all my blueprints because they're getting a little bit out of hand. There we go. We can just replace these like so. And yes, I will have to redo these. So now that we've got this flat piece, we're going to remove this section. And then from here, we're going to grab a single continued right curve. Yeah, this one. Nudge that into... actually no. Let's go with a double curve first. That would give this a straight line to go up. Problem with that, it's not quite the right position, so we're going to have to go a little bit further, and then probably around here we'll have our line going up here, which would work, but we do need to do some kind of magic here to make it a steeper angle. And the way that we can do this is by placing a 2-meter ramp and then a 4-meter ramp. And the way this works is that you cannot run a train up a 4-meter steep ramp, but you can up a 3-meter angled ramp. Don't know how to name it. But if we were to place that there, we can eventually replace all of this, which I won't do now, and then we can run the railway line. We'll do it in the center, but we're not going to do it just yet. From here up to the straight point. It's not going to work because it's not in the dead center yet, but you can see how we can get a 3-meter steep line. And then on this section, we're going to continue going to the right. That'll run a very steady curve all the way around. And we managed to run it without any real issues. Same with the steep angle that you can see here. The only thing that we have left to do with this is to fill it in. So we want to make this look supported. We do want to also fill this in. We should be able to do that by doing the same technique that we used to get the right angle. So we're going to go steep, followed by not so steep. And once done, it should just look like a filled section. The next thing to do is to set up a load of storage containers along here so that we're splitting the resources for every 2 of these traits into 3 industrial containers. So I'm going to do that really quickly so that we can move on to the next section. And with all that done, we can now start setting up the bus, getting the resources over to our concrete facility, or what will be. And I've got a funny feeling we're going to have to dip them beneath this bus and then up and over the rail line. I don't think there's any other way we're going to be able to do that. Okay, that's not too bad. This has been quite quick to set up, actually. And we're just taking this up to here, where it will go over to the next section. And voila, the lines of resources are now ready to be run, essentially. So now that the train line into the facility is complete and ready for resources, we can start working on the production lines. The only problem is that the original plan was to fit all of the refineries beneath the water facility. However, to produce 10,000 concrete, I've done the maths, and we're actually going to need over 100 refineries, and even at a 200% overclock, which we'll be doing for this, we're not going to have enough room for it. So rather than stick to our original plan, we're going to throw that out the window and adapt the build. But for that, we do need to set up a wet concrete blueprint. Now, the important thing when it comes to the concrete blueprint, which we're just going to do here, is that it's quite a resource hungry line. So if we place these down here, we'll need, I think it's 3, we'll check this. But if we grab our wet concrete refinery recipe, see, it's 120 limestone and 100 water per refinery. So if we were to double this up, that gives us 200 water. And though we still have room within the Mark V conveyor belts, we've got 780 items, but 3 times 240 is 720. We can only get 600 water in a pipe. So we're going to have to use 3 of these per line. So my plan is to grab the resources, and we're going to place these mergers just underneath so that the output line goes around and under like so. And then we of course have to connect these all up. And one thing I do like to do with my refineries is just to block off the output for the liquids if we're not using them. So we're going to place that there, and then back here I'm going to add a wall, and the idea will be that the resources can run along here. We'll actually feed them along here, and then we can just add, oh, it's snapping to the output. We could snap it to the output, but it doesn't look that nice. So instead I'm going to lift this up to here. We may even have to push this forwards a little bit. Yeah, we'll definitely push these forwards just a touch, but just so you can see the general design, we're going to have our water heading down from these pipes here. And because this is a Mark II line, the input side, we're going to make sure that we have the Mark II pipes for the whole build. The output line will come along here, just like this segment, and we will also border it with some pillars. From there, we're also going to grab the larger ones. So I'm going to slide these, and then I want to make sure that we make this stand out as a concrete build. So we're going to have the letters concrete. Yeah, and we'll do the same there as well. Okay, I've moved it all forwards to the front of the build. We've also added the pillar all the way around, and I'm not sure if we'll keep this, but we've added some lighting either side with walkways all the way along now, so they should connect quite nicely together. The only other thing that I've done is to set up, well, the walkway up there, but also this. I'm trying really hard to find a snapping point so that we can place this inside, so that we can make use of this little curvature here. And the way that I'm trying to do this, much to my dismay at the moment, is to run, we've run a straight line and then a diagonal, and then we're finding snapping points within that for another layer, because these aren't on the same snapping point, same meter snapping point. These are obviously the same. Oh, look at that. Perfect. Now I'm a little bit concerned that we might not be able to delete them once they're placed there. So what we're going to do is Actually, we could add the word concrete. If you didn't know what it was yet, you will do by the end of this. Yeah, I think that works. So from here, we can place that there. How would that look? Please, please don't be clipping. Ah, wonderful. I'm really happy with that. And then we can do the same, but if we flip it, ooh, yeah, you see how I'm not able to delete it. Good job I did that. Oh, I really like that positioning. Okay, so we're going to do that for all of them. And then this will be done. And also just a quick heads up, if you like my blueprints and want to save yourself some time building them yourself, do check out my Patreon page. All of them are available on there, as well as tours to the builds themselves. Anyway, let's get placing. And now we have to place the first of these refineries. And I think possibly around about this height would be good, because we don't want them to clip into any of the cliffs here. Unfortunately, this section is going to have to be a touch higher. And I also want this to align with this support here. Let's grab our blueprint. The game does not like me using all of these blueprints. I can feel us slowly losing FPS as we do so. And I'm going to make sure that it's aligned to the first section. Yeah, that's all right. And then not clipping through the pipes, but that's okay. Let's also place in between a little pathway. And there we go. Our first 2 blueprints. And we need, I think, about 20 of these, which there's no way we're going to fit 20 in here. I think we could maybe do 10. So we're going to have to think about how we can make this factory work. Hey, but the blue lights look good in this dark setting. Having given it a touch of thought, I think what we're going to do, we could maybe add another set along here. We're going to actually bring this back, and then we'll have to find a spot for us to run up to this section, because this is going to be where the next part is. Unfortunately, it needs to be a bit higher because of the cliffside here. I think what we're going to have to do is remove the beam in front, maybe do it along there. And so we'd have 2 more of these. Ooh. I'm going to have to nudge that further across. If we went to there, but we nudged this so that it was aligned to this. Could we fit another one here? Yeah. That could work. And then we'll have to do the same across this side. And instead of trying to squeeze them all under there and keeping it really tight, what I'll do is run all the rest of the refineries along here. Yeah, I think that's going to be best. So this was originally planned to be where the concrete facilities, basic products would be created. We can still do that, but I think we need to lift it above, and then along here we'll have that line of refineries. And if we can get it to the other end, where the elevator is for the copper, to be there, that could look really nice, and we'll just have to find a way to kind of unite the build. So I'm going to get started with placing everything else and see how we're doing. We might have to remove those 3. It depends. We've still got about 16 or so blueprints to place here. Okay, and all we have to do now is place that one there. Wonderful! With the refineries all placed, fitting nicely between the water facility and what will be the copper smeltery's elevator, we need to start working out a way to incorporate the concrete facility into the overall design. Then, once we've worked out the ceiling, we can start prepping the logistics back to the steel facility. But with the facility spanning half of the factory, we really need to knuckle down the right design, otherwise the aesthetics will be ruined, and that comes down to blocking. When I say blocking, we are just making sure that we know the rough structure of the build, and then we can detail it later on. For example, I know that we're going to want to bring the water along the back line here. And we're going to need, for each line, a whole pipe. So that means for 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, that's going to be a whole foundation specifically for pipes. So we're probably going to need... Oh, this is taking a while. I keep getting this little bug. I think it's a bug, which makes it look like it's auto-saving, but it's not. And it just freezes up. There we go. It's loaded. Yeah, that might be enough room. So we can remove these. So rather than taking it up here, we would run these along. Now we've got 4 plus 2. And once we know roughly where everything is going to be going, we know how much space we've got. And so this we know is going to run all the way along here. This would be for all the piping. And then we can start working on the front facade. But before we do that, I also want to make sure that we know roughly the height that we're going to be running the pipes along, and also conveyors back. So let's just want it to be about that height. So we're going to run this all the way along. We're going to run the resources up along here once we've started placing the ceiling. But before we do that, I think it's really important that we get an idea for the front piece. So let's, for this wall, work out where we want the height to be. Actually, you know what? That wall there is probably a good height for this, because then we can just have the funnels sticking out if we wanted to. So we'll bring this out and run this all the way along. And we'll do this 2 deep as well. And that will set where we have the positioning for our front wall. So the wall will have to come out from here. But for now, let's look at the build here. So I think what we want to have is, rather than a flat surface, kind of have it jutting out slightly. And for that, I'm going to, I think, have it forwards, 2 foundations. And then if we grab our beam, and then in freeform, place it. We give ourselves 3 spaces free. And then we do another 2. So here, have the next 3. This is very much an experiment for me. I haven't tried anything quite like this for the front of a building. But if we then snap our foundations in nudge mode against this, I mean, you know what? I quite like that. Just these little sections sticking out, and then we could have maybe a window. Or alternatively, actually, what if this might not work? We come forwards again and have to run that all the way along, and we do the opposite. How would that look? It might look terrible. It might look amazing. So let's test the waters. Oh, I think that could look really clean. Okay, right, yeah, let's give this a go. I'll also run this. Ooh, just enough room here. We'll run this one across here. I'm going to do this all the way along and see how it looks. And I will also sort out the logistics of the pipes so that we know exactly where they are. And then we'll start planning out how the wall looks. And here we are. I'm really liking this kind of step on, step off wall front here that we've got. There's a little bit of clipping over there that we can't really help with, but we're just going to run with it. I have now redone the logistics along here, so it's looking a lot cleaner. And then if we go the other side, you can see we've also got all the piping underneath. This bit's a little bit skew just because cliff. Acceptable clipping there. We don't want to end up going through the cliff. And then on top of this, we've got the lines with all the limestone going in. And we're going to do something with the concrete coming out, which will probably be on top of all of this. And we're going to have to bring the stuff from the other side as well. But before we do that, we are actually going to focus on the facade, the front decoration of this build. And we're going to have, if we start off with the glass, we're going to bring it up to about 3 high. Normally I do the glass here, but I think switching it up might look quite nice. Let's nudge that over. Actually, we don't need to nudge it, we can snap it to there. Then we'll kind of hide that in this section. So we have this big way. I was going to say big bay window, but it's actually the opposite of a bay window. It's kind of a converse bay window. I don't even know if that's a thing. The next thing that we're going to do, let's slide inside one of these, but I want to see the gold. The Caterian's just a bit too Caterian-y. So this is the color that we're using on the refineries, which, if you're interested, is hashtag 877F60. Let's grab that, and I'm going to replace, no I'm not, I'm just going to place it inside, and then from here I'm going to grab some pillars, and we'll go with the concrete ones. I always use the concrete ones over the metal ones because we can just paint them, and I'm gonna place them just along here. We're going to do the same here as well. Let's just fill out this front section, and it would be really nice to have a contrasting material here. So let's make it black, and then we're going to paint these. I think carbon, it's quite dark though, so we might change that. And we'll do this on both of the sides. Ooh, okay. I like that. Yeah, so we will paint all of the concrete, and then here we're going to get a lot of that Z fighting which we have over there. That will be covered, so that won't matter, but this is going to have to be something different. So if we go with the asphalt, yeah, I think that works. I was going to remove this, but actually I quite like having that there. I might actually grab a wall. We get the 1 meter walls. We paint that. Might be a touch bright, but I think it's just the time of day. And then this segment actually goes all the way down. So we should maybe have a little alcove in the center. That could look pretty cool. We're also going to need this line all the way across. Along this section here, I think it would be good to have kind of a section where we run just a pattern, kind of unite all of the little sections together. And then this, I think we're going to have to change the material on this one to be a bit more contrasting to the rest of the build, just to bring it in more. Next we can run this all the way along. Probably going to need to go up a fair bit. In fact, it would be nice if we could kind of meet up with this section. Means that's going to need to be pushed back a touch. That will look nice once we've actually repeated this. Okay, so let's do this all the way along. The only thing I think we need is maybe some signs. Always signs. I have a problem, all right?
Stop it. Get some help.
Don't call me out on it. Right. Let's go with, I think for this one we can flip it rather than do the normal colors. Let's go with something like a white, and then we could also add them maybe here. Just feels that now we need to border something. We need like a bigger sign in the middle. Well, that looks good, except it's the wrong way around. So if we were to put that down here, yeah, that looks good. And then this, we're gonna flip that. I like it, but now I'm thinking this is a touch too high. We brought this down to here, and then pulled that down and removed this top foundation worth. I think that would look really good. So we're going to now do all of this all the way along, and well, unless it looks terrible, in which case I'll stop. I'll see you in a moment. I'm so happy with how this has turned out. So we've now done the facade all across the front, although we've gone with white rather than black for the front pillars. And then we've also done a similar thing with the roof as well, creating these hexagons, goodness me. And for these, all we've done is sink the glass roofs slightly lower, so they're a ½ meter down, and then we've added the plain roofs a ½ meter, actually I don't think they are, no, they are ever so slightly higher. No, they're not, yeah, they're at the right height. Okay, so they're just snapped normally. But we do have this black basic wall, and that goes all the way around, and that's just a ½ meter up to give it this little lip. And then we've done the sandy concrete colours. I'm worried it looks a little golden, but I think it works. Yeah. So the next thing that we're going to be doing is the ceiling. The only thing that I really like to change about this build at the moment is the elevator here. I loved being able to see out at the whole facility, and now we can't do that. So I'm contemplating later on maybe moving this all the way down there so that we can then see the whole facility. We're just going to have to fill all this in, but it would be a long walk back. Anyway, onto the ceiling. So for this, I think it's really important that we have light coming in, natural light. So the first thing that we're going to do here, playing with what we've already got, is to drop it down ½ meter. We're going to run that all the way along and run this all the way across to the end. And then about halfway, actually we can do dead on halfway, which is here. We'll have a main support spline, rib cage, I don't know. Spine, that's the word I was looking for. Goodness me, we'll get there eventually. Sometimes there is just no hope for me, I swear. Right, from here we're going to grab, I think maybe that's a 2 meter. That comes up about halfway. Yeah, let's do that. And we're going to paint this one black, like metallic black, so it will reflect some of that light. And we'll do this on both sides. There's no point me decorating the very top section because there is the potential for us to have a facility on top of this. So for now, we're gonna just do the blocking for it, and then later on when the whole build, including the copper, is done, we'll perfect this. I was about to say we've finished the ceiling here, but I noticed we've just missed this little section here. So we've added some walling on the outside to mimic the kind of sandy colour and also the black, just to separate it a bit. But I'm really happy with the whole build. And we've done the same here as well. This is just 3 separate walls. They're each ½ meter up, and we've nudged them so that they're next to one another, giving this little stripe down the middle, which has left us with the internals. We've got the lighting down the center now, just to give us some like lighting at night alongside the mood lighting that we have here. And the next thing that we're going to be doing, you can see how I've brought all the resources down from the ceiling here. Well, we're actually going to take all of these now back up. Oh, that's annoying. I'm going to actually, I think if I close that, probably nudge that to the, look at that, meant to be. So we need to make sure that we're connecting these up. But this is where the concrete is going to run, and that will run all the way across. Ooh. Is that gonna get in the way of this? No, wait. Wonderful, that actually works out pretty well. If I can find the right position. So all of those lines are gonna come across like this. And then all of these ones, we're gonna bring up as well into this section here. So I'm gonna have to start all the way over there and then work our way down to here, and we will run all of the lines. It's going to take me a fair bit of time, but it's going to run all the way along this section, and then it's going to head up here. So I'm going to replace that, I think, with Well, let's go with metal for now. I can always change it. And we're going to grab conveyor holes. And each one of these is going to go up into the steel facility. And we'll take them up to the next floor where they'll go to their designated areas. Anything else to cover before we do that? We've done a little walkway through here. I've lit that up. This is going to run up into here, and then we can go all the way to the end. And of course we have our little elevator that still goes to the water section for now. I think that's all we need to do. I think it's just that section that's left, and we'll wall this in for now, but the chances are we'll probably have to open it up to put another facility here at some point. So we'll wall it off for the sake of making it look like a complete build, but we're not going to do any detailing because the chances are we are going to end up building into this section. After all, once this is all up and running, still only 2/3 the way through the build. We've got the copper facility to do next. And that's providing we don't decide to do Caterium, which we should probably do at some point. But whether we do it here, I'm not sure. The logistics are done. It's taken me so long, but I cannot wait to see all of the resources running across all of these up into the actual steel facility. So to give you an idea, we have the water here from the packages, and then the train station below. The train station's taking all the resources along under there, up across here, and then can I squeeze in here? No, not well planned. There we go. And so the resources are running above the water, and then using these framed floors as supports coming down into the facility. And then once they're done, they're heading back up to the steel facility, where they will be sent up to in the next episode, as we trial it, up to the actual foundries and also the assemblers. So with the facility now prepped and ready to produce concrete, we're left with one last problem to resolve, and that's working out how to get a 13 carriage freight train with all the resources to our facility without causing throughput issues for the rest of the line. And only once that has been resolved will the steel facility be able to turn on and start producing the steel we need to continue onto phase 3 of the Giga-Smeltery. But we're going to have to solve that in a future episode. So guys, if you did like the video, please do hit the thumbs up. And if you're wondering what to watch next, why not check out this amazing factory tour, which I'll link in the description below now. But until next time, guys, special thanks as always does go to all of our incredible supporters on Patreon, most notably our Lunaclipse patrons, Firefless, The Calamity, Ben and Star, as well as our Blood Moon of the Day, which today is Dr. Shotgun. But until next time, as always, ciao for now.